So I want to talk about what do I mean by running a tight calendar? Well, I mean that everything that you do should be accounted for as a meeting set up in your calendar. Everything, whether it's workout time, date night, making phone calls in your business, whether it's just taking some time for yourself, everything that you do in your life that's important to you should be in your calendar. You know, I have two rules with my calendar. Rule number one is everything goes in it. And rule number two is I do everything in my calendar. Now, am I 100% all the time? No. Am I 80 to 90% most weeks? Well, hell yeah, I am. But 80 to 90% effective on your calendar, if you design it like I'm about to tell you, you can be successful at anything. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Life by Design with Steve Holbrook. I'm super glad that you're here with us today. And whether you're listening to this on our podcast platforms, or you're watching this on YouTube, or you're catching a clip on Instagram or Facebook or all the platforms that we post on, welcome, welcome, welcome. Today, we are talking about probably one of the top 3 most asked questions of all time. And I've done various different videos on this topic in the past, but I'm still getting a ton of questions. People asking, Steve, my calendar is a disaster. How do I run a calendar? Steve, I'm focusing on being a mom and an entrepreneur. I have a job. You know, there's all these, my health, my mindset. How do I fit it all in? How do I do it? Well, you know, most people do. They think that they have to slow down. They think that they have to eliminate some things. They start telling themselves like, oh, maybe I can't work out in the mornings, or I can't go to the gym, or maybe my kids can't be in all the activities, and maybe I'm just not cut out for entrepreneurship. The truth is, your calendar is probably a disaster. Your calendar tells me the story that I need to know about you. You know, often when I'm meeting and mentoring and coaching people, the first thing that I'll ask them, I'll say, show me your calendar. And they'll say, well, what do you mean? I say, show me your calendar. Why? Because your calendar tells me the story. You can tell me what you want, but your calendar should tell me the story. Your calendar should tell me where your priorities are, what you're focused on, what you've been doing. I should be able to tell where your health is at, your relationship is at, your business is at by looking at your calendar. And of course, you can't tell all of those things because there's a little bit more to it. But I can tell you if you're focusing enough time on those things to even give them a chance. So today's topic is running a world-class calendar. So the first thing I want to talk about is, you know, you're going to hear me talk about running a tight calendar. So I want to talk about what do I mean by running a tight calendar? Well, I mean that everything that you do should be accounted for as a meeting set up in your calendar. Everything, whether it's workout time, date night, making phone calls in your business, whether it's just taking some time for yourself, everything that you do in your life that's important to you should be in your calendar. You know, I have 2 rules with my calendar. Rule number 1 is everything goes in it. And rule number 2 is I do everything in my calendar. Now, am I 100% all the time? No. Am I 80 to 90% most weeks? Well, hell yeah, I am. But 80 to 90% effective on your calendar, if you design it like I'm about to tell you, you can be successful at anything. Well, almost anything. I'll never be able to dunk a basketball because I'm only 5'10". So I could organize my calendar all I want. And man, my vert is not where it needs to be for that. But you guys get what I mean. All right. So let's get into it. Before we organize our calendar, I need you to make sure that you have set goals and priorities. What are your clear goals and clear priorities? One of the reasons your calendar might be a mess is because you don't even know what your goals are. You don't even know what your priorities are. Okay. You really have to identify that. So write it down on a piece of paper. Take some time. Start categorizing, right? I have family priorities. Okay. So within your family priorities, what do you need to be doing within that? Right? I have fitness priorities. Great. That's good. You should. What are some things within that you need to do to make sure it's a priority? For example, maybe you need to meditate. If that's maybe to journal, maybe you need to go to the gym or go for a walk or watch some YouTube videos that helps you with your health, right? Maybe you're spiritual, you have commitments at church, right? So what does that look like? So you really have to sit down. And that's why I love running a calendar, because it constantly forces me to be reevaluating my priorities. And I'll tell you what, the priorities that were a priority a year ago or even 6 months ago, sometimes they switch, right? Sometimes they change. Sometimes I'm in a season of where, you know what, I really got to buckle down on my health here for the next 6 months. Maybe I need to buckle down on my business. Maybe you're on a big promotion run. Maybe you just got into business and you're trying to expand and scale your business, as fast as you possibly can. So first thing I want you to do is I want you to identify all of your goals and all of your priorities right now in your life. Once we've identified our goals and priorities, now it's time to use the time blocking technique. So now that you have your priorities, I want you to take a look at them on the paper, right? Or go back to this YouTube video and do this later. You're going to look at your paper. You're going to look at all those things, some of the examples that I just gave you. And then what I want you to do is I want you to put a time beside each one. Okay. I want you to put a time amount. So let's just use a simple one, workout 3 days a week. Great. How much time do you need for that? Including, driving to the gym unless you work out at home, working out at the gym, obviously coming home, how much time? Let's just say it's 60 minutes or 90 minutes, whatever it is, doesn't matter. So you write 60 minutes times 3. Okay. And then you have your kids' priority. Maybe it's, within that, you have soccer and you have hockey, and maybe there's a movie night with your kids, and, bedtime, non-negotiable bedtime where I tuck them in, and, you have all these priorities with that. Put some time a lot next to it, a lot of time. Once you have the amount of time next to each priority, then you can start putting it into your calendar, right? So start with the simple stuff, right? Gym 3 days a week. Well, which days a week are you committed to working out? Not the days that you feel like it, not the days where your legs aren't sore, not the days where you wake up and you don't feel tired. What days, non-negotiable, are you committed to going to the gym? Let's say it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Okay. So you look at your calendar, electronic calendar, of course, is 2023. You need to be using an electronic calendar, especially for the things that I'm referring to. Okay. You look at your blank canvas and you start with 6 to 7 a.m., Monday, Wednesday, Friday, reoccurring. Okay. Now I have a different color for each area of my life. My personal affairs are like a light green, right? Make me feel really good about myself, right? My business meetings that I have to commit to, right? Those are going to be like dark green because those are money making times. I have yellow for certain things. I have red for certain things in my life. So each priority, each goal, each area of my life is all a different color. And then I want you to go in your calendar and I want you to set those times in. Work out 3 days a week, put them in. Right? Look at the next priority, put it in your calendar. Look at the next priority, put it in your calendar, and start to put some of these priorities, all of them actually, into your calendar one by one. That's the first thing I want you to do. Next is I want you to focus on eliminating time wasters. Okay. So what are time wasters? I don't know. Why don't we start with social media? Now, I know you're watching this on social media. Watching this video, in my opinion, is not a time waster because it's adding value to your life. Following me on Instagram, following me on YouTube, watching my videos, right? Watching other content creators like Ed Mylett, that is not a time waster. But what is a time waster is scrolling through social media, getting on TikTok and going down the vortex of TikTok. So what do I do with my social media apps? I have a time limit on my social media apps. Right? Yeah, I'm omnipresent on social media. I'm on all the platforms. I'm everywhere. I'm posting all the time. And you guys must think, wow, Steve must spend all of his time on social media. No, I spend about 25 minutes a day on social media. 25 minutes a day. Well, how do you do that? Well, because I get a notification on my phone when I've hit that time limit. And I can either extend it by 15 minutes, I can ignore it for the day, or I can get off the app. And about 9 times out of 10, I get off the app for the day, right? So that's what I do for social media. The other thing is this whole concept of multitasking, okay? Multitasking is a myth, okay? When you're running a tight calendar, the reason you're scheduling things in is so that you don't have to do 2 things at once. The people that love to multitask and brag about how good they are multitasking are also the ones that don't run a tight calendar. They're not effective with it. A lot of times they end up burning out 5, 10, 15 years down the road. It's not effective. It's proven by science now that being multitasker throughout the entire day is not effective. You're better off time blocking, spending 30 minutes there and then not thinking about it 30 minutes there. Now, there's always going to be some some things that come up, and I'll talk about that in a second. The other thing is procrastination, right? Procrastination is going to kill you. So again, go back to rule number 2. If it's in the calendar, you have to do it. If you're a procrastinator like I am, I think most humans are, right? We want to procrastinate things if we can, especially the tough things, the things that challenge us, the things that make us uncomfortable. If that's you, you really, really, really need to be running a tight calendar. Everybody should, but you really need to do it. And running an effective and tight calendar eliminates procrastination, especially if you follow my rules. The next thing I want to talk about is optimizing meetings and appointments. What do I mean by that? I found myself about a year and a half ago looking at my calendar, and I had 2 or 3 days in a row where I was busy and I was organized and everything was in there, and I'd sit back at the end of the day and go, what did I really accomplish? Was I really that effective? So I did some studying. I reached out to some mentors, and what I realized is that not every meeting needs to be a 60-minute meeting. Not every meeting needs to go 45, 60, even an hour and a half. So my 60-minute meetings, most of them are now 30-minute meetings. Most of my 30-minute meetings are now 15 to 20-minute meetings. And even when I have a 60-minute meeting on the books, my intention is to end that meeting at least in 45 minutes, which creates me a 45-minute buffer. So what I've done to optimize my meeting time is I've shranken the amount of time that I'm allocating to it, which allows me to get to the point more. I'm still building rapport. I'm still building connection with them, but I'm getting to the point more. The other thing that you can do that I started doing is better preparation for the meeting itself. So the night before, if you have 3-4 meetings the next day, what you should do is send a message to the people that are in those meetings with an outline of the meeting. Right? If you're using a calendar like Google Calendar, you invite somebody to the link and then make some notes in that invite on what you're going to be talking about. When you get into a meeting that's 30-minute meeting or 20-minute meeting, if you're prepared and you have your priorities intact, you can get through that meeting and it can be super effective. Here's the old way. You book a 60-minute block. Nobody's really prepared. You sit down, you're 22 minutes into the meeting and they're telling you about this and you're telling them about that, and there's really no real meat and potatoes. And guess what? You're running a 50% effectiveness, 40% effectiveness. So I want you to look at the amount of time you're allotting per meeting in your calendar. And then I also want you to ask yourself, are you fully prepared for the meetings, right? Are people ready to meet with you? Do they have their questions ready? Do you have your questions ready? And if you can do those couple things, you'll be optimized like hell. My next point, using technology. It's 2023. You got to utilize technology to stay organized in your calendar. Electronic calendar is an absolute must. Why? Well, first of all, it talks to all your platforms, right? As you get big, especially in business, your assistant can be on there confirming your meetings. If you have a family, right, your wife can see your calendar. You can invite each other to trips, to airplane. When my wife books a family trip, she just puts it on my calendar and invites me. It automatically goes into my calendar and adjusts to the color that it needs to be. It's so effective, right? I cringe when I see people still using paper day timers. It's also the people that typically aren't on social media and don't really, really fully understand the world that we live in today. You should absolutely be using technology for your calendar. It speaks to each other, right? You can quickly make an adjustment. You can invite people. It's easier to communicate with the people that you're meeting with through email invites. All those things matter. Your assistant, you're saving so much time. I probably save 15 to 20 hours per week just using technology through my calendar apps and such. My next point, super important. You got to create some buffer time. One of the big mistakes that people make is they book 10 meetings back to back. I believe in buffer time. I think you should leave a 15, 20-minute buffer, half-hour break, right? I like to book in things like, 60 minutes to eat or 30 minutes to eat, just so that I can get some food in, right? I try and end my calls 15 minutes early. Sometimes it's backed up with a 30-minute call. If somebody wants to book me in back-to-back meetings and they're an hour meeting, I'll book like a 1 to 2 and then a 2:30 to 3:30. You have to build in some buffer time. You got to get up. You got to walk around, right? You have to be able to create some space for those audibles, for the curveball, right? Steve, how do you be so structured and deal with things that come up? Why leave some buffer time, right? Don't book 10 back to back to back to back. That's actually not effective, and you're not being effective with your time. So make sure that you utilize buffer time. My next point, the power of no. You got to learn how to say no. The best tool that you have for your calendar is saying no. I used to be the guy that committed to everything, right? Hey, Steve, can you mentor me for an hour? Hey, can you spend 2 hours with my team? And I love helping people. Yes, what do you need? Yes, what do you need? Yes, what do you need? Well, guess what? I learned how to say no. If it's not a priority of mine and it's not a goal, I really have to ask myself if it's going to go on the calendar. Now, if a colleague of mine calls me up and says, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you talk to my team? Of course, I'm going to do that favor, especially for a colleague of mine, right? People that have helped me out in the past. But man, I say no to a lot of things. I say no to some family gatherings. I say no to some mentorship opportunities. I say no to some paid speaking opportunities because you know what? If it's not in line with my priorities and my goal right now, even if it's going to pay me a bit of money, it's going to set me back long term. Focus on your priorities. Focus on your goals. If it's not important, say no to it. Sometimes it's okay to be a little bit selfish. You got to protect you, protect your time, protect your mindset, and saying no to things is the best way to do that. All right, you guys, the last reason why you should run a tight calendar, because it's going to improve your work-life balance. Now, it's so funny because in my business, the people that I work with, I swear all they think I do is work, right? My family, friends outside the business, all they think I do is play and travel. And because I'm always right where I need to be. I'm always right where I need to be. If you run a tight calendar and you prioritize and you put all the things that you need to do in your calendar, you're going to build your business. You're going to be successful. There's no way that you can spend 10 years in your business and not get close to where you want to be if you do exactly what I just told you. The other thing is you can build a great family. You can have a great relationship with your spouse. You can have great travel experiences. You can do it all. You can do it all with an effective calendar. And without one, you're really gambling your future. All right, guys, I hope you got some value out of that. Please make sure you share this with your team, right? Subscribe to the channel, give it some love, and I'll see you on the next episode.